Hello there, my name is Peter Kingsford-Petley and I'm a counsellor and clinical hypnotherapist. Now, one of the questions that always comes up in conversation when people find out what I do is, what does it feel like to be hypnotised? Well, you're about to find out, and in a relatively short period of time, in fact, no longer than 7 or 8 minutes or so. But first, I've got to give you a word of warning. Because this is a hypnotic recording, please do not listen to this while you're in a car or at any other time when your attention needs to be 100% focused on anything else. Now, before we begin, it's important to understand, first of all, that you don't have to do anything but listen, and it's best to listen passively. And by that, I mean, don't pay too much attention to the words that I say. Just allow yourself to relax, let go, and let the words and music wash over you. Also, it's essential that for maximum effect, that you wear headphones or earbuds. Now, I'm just going to give you a few moments to find yourself a nice comfy place where you can either sit or lie down. It doesn't really matter. Now, before I begin, you can close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in and let it out again. That's right. And sometimes, that's really all it takes to begin to calibrate your body and prepare your mind to access and experience a state of extremely deep and restful trance, where your normal experiences of the passing of time and your reliance on spatial orientation no longer matters. But you know and I know that you do this every night, in fact, just before you go to sleep. So you're already better at this than you might think. In fact, you'll probably discover that the experience of trance isn't anything that you may not have already experienced as a subject of your own awareness, when you've allowed yourself to drift off into a daydream state where you begin to let go, unwind, and become less aware of what might be going on both around you and within you, just as you do as you begin to enter that twilight state, just before you go to sleep, where words and thoughts begin to coalesce into ideas, shapes, forms, seeing the sound that some would hear or there to go. And I wonder just when and at what point you'll forget to pay attention to what I say, simply allowing your natural curiosity concerning when and where and how and why you no longer have to think about what it is that you don't have to, and no longer give any thought at all as to what would happen if you didn't think about what wouldn't happen if you did. Allow yourself now to go all the way. That's right. Relaxing deeper. And of course, the nice thing about not having to think about exactly how you know what you know now is that whatever thoughts come to your mind now is most likely exactly what you should be thinking about. And so you can forget all about that and let it go, floating down. And then, to the extent that that part of you wants you to simply let go and understand that other than you're becoming more fascinated in something else that's happening right now, apart from anything else and at any other time other than now, it's simply easier, isn't it, to stop trying, to resist the urge, to let go completely now. And you're already beginning to experience just how effective this can be, aren't you? And isn't it interesting that many things that seem to make so much sense during a dream begin to make absolutely no sense at all upon awakening from that dream? And if I were to ask someone if they've ever been in a trance other than a subject of their own experience, this is exactly what I'm referring to. And certain sounds seem to slow down certain perceptions as time And you really don't have to consciously remember that, because things that seem to make syntactical sense on so many levels may seem to send your senses somewhere other than what you're usually aware of on a conscious level is something other than this. And this means that you're no longer easily able to trace and track the course of thoughts of what would be something that would go somewhere rather than nowhere, isn't it? But that's a good thing, because you know and I know it's more than okay to be nowhere, because nowhere can you be more free to be yourself than the middle of nowhere, where you can know where you've been, know where you're going, know where you are. And isn't that exactly how you feel when waking up in the middle of a dream, as you may at some point experience now? That's right. To see the sound that some would hear or there to go in order to understand, isn't it, that most people stop listening when you move away from your point of attention. Because at the moment, you're listening because you'll be guided in some way, and you know this, towards relaxation, calmness, tranquility, mainly through getting out of your own way. And the more you do, the more that part of your mind might want to let go now. And the only reason that you may be consciously aware of this is if, for whatever the reason, you begin to think about all the stops along the way that you could have. And I wonder, at which stop thinking about it did you finally decide to let go? Because you knew that it really wasn't worth trying to remember anyway. Exactly how you decided to forget to remember, exactly which stop thinking about it you decided to let go. And so you did, in your own way, and not even necessarily because I'd suggested that. You do that anyway, and you already have, very well indeed. I mean, when would it not ought to have been easier than you could have possibly imagined? And only if you hadn't considered all of the possibilities now, before you allow yourself to explore the absence of something that used to be so familiar by its presence, beyond what you may not have imagined at some other time other than now, and in doing so discover that there really isn't anything other than those that only appear to exist like a mirage, now and then, and only outside of everything else. That isn't that, isn't it? And it's okay if you've decided to move on. And even though it may not seem as if all you can do is stop yourself from moving too far ahead of your own thoughts, so that you can now allow that part of you, quite apart from the part that may still be listening to me now, to pleasantly surprise yourself and to see the sound that some would hear or there to go, just as you do when you're dreaming, floating, drifting, dreaming, drowsily moving easily, effortlessly in this realm that we call trance, that it's really only after the fact that you can look back and say, I didn't know what to expect, and I certainly wasn't disappointed, and neither were you. And I wonder just how many times in the quiet of your own mind that you've said or thought that, to remember to recall just how often you've forgotten to do just that, which is always so much more. And you can just allow yourself to drift and dream for the next few moments before we move back. And so, in a moment, not just yet, but in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And when you hear me say the number 5, you'll be back to full waking awareness, fully reoriented to your surroundings, in touch with your body, and ready to get on with whatever it is that you've got planned for the rest of the morning, afternoon, day, or evening. Now, 1. This experience that you've just had is one that you're going to want to come back to time and time again. 2, because it is a really nice, gentle introduction to the experience of trance. 3, and with the next number, not quite the last number, but with the next number 4, you can be prepared to now just be reoriented to yourself, move your fingers, stretch a little bit, and 5. Open your eyes feeling wide awake, refreshed, rejuvenated, and absolutely fantastic. Welcome back.